I want to thank everyone for joining us this afternoon for the Unit Record training webinar. This is the second of three. We're so pleased to have you as we go through our webinar training for the Unit Record for the 24-25 academic year data. And our first matter of business is to introduce each of us. My name is Ann Voiles. I'm the Program Associate for the Financial Aid Office, and Marla Skelly is our Associate Director for Compliance. Joining us also is Nisha Griffiths, who is our Receivables Coordinator and has been working with us in reviewing the unit record the last couple of years. I do want to let you know that we are recording this session and we will be placing two of the three on our unit record website when they're available, probably in another week or so. And we do have one additional unit record training on Thursday, which will include a co-presenter from the State Board for Community and Technical Colleges that will cover some of the CTC Link and PeopleSoft screens. With that, I'd like to go ahead and turn this meeting over to Marla. We may off and on stop for questions, and definitely at the very end, we will provide you with that opportunity. So Marla, let me give it to you.
Thanks, Ann. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Marla Skelly, the Associate Director for Compliance at SFA. And I've been here going into my 8th year, which seems sort of amazing. I've been in financial aid almost all of my career, and I think financial aid is an amazing profession. I mean, I think most of us don't think of ourselves growing up as a financial aid professional, but I think all of us just ended up in it. I will be turning my camera off for the presentation, and then we'll turn it on towards the end. So with that, let me get into this. What's the purpose of the unit record report? First, let's have a little history. This is the 53rd year of the unit record report. It first started in 1972, following the establishment in 1969 of the State Need Grant, which, as you all know, is now known as the Washington College Grant, or WCG. What the unit record does is it provides institutional reports and profiles so that we can do institutional comparisons across the state. It measures the need of our students, and WASAC relies on this data for advocating on behalf of students with external and internal partners. Information from the unit record is regularly used when we work with the legislature. The unit record also looks at unmet needs, so it's not all about just need and full need. It looks at the full array of financial aid for the Washington State students. It informs potential changes to state aid programs through modeling and proposed changes. Probably one of the most important pieces of the unit record is that it provides a centralized data repository so that you're not needing to do a bunch of ad hoc requests to WASAC for information that you need. So it's an important tool in reporting that we send and have available to the institutions. So the timeline, the unit record manual is available at our website at wasac.wa.gov/units-record. And the training portal is available for you to upload a test file so that you can make any corrections that you might need to make prior to submitting your file in the live portal data. The unit record opened yesterday. I'm a little shocked. Time just flies when you're having fun. So you have until October 20th for the finalized report. And that is, we try to work around WAFA as best we can, but we need to have your completed unit records so that we can spend the months of October through December analyzing and making sure that what has been reported is accurate. We try to have the reports to policymakers in December. The last few years, we have not been able to meet that deadline, primarily because first we've had growth in schools, and I think changes to the unit record report itself we have so much information that it just takes longer for us to get through it all. But our ultimate goal is to have institutional profiles available in January, at the latest February. We start getting requests from the legislative staff as early as October, November for the next legislative session. We want you to start as soon as possible. This is information from the 24-25 academic year, so the year has closed out for all intents and purposes. And the earlier you start, the better you will be able to meet our deadline. We are going to have a hard and fast deadline of October 20th, and we will send out reminder emails and probably include your presidents in those emails so that they're aware that this report is coming due. Next slide, please. So what's in the manual? It hasn't changed over time. So it's still your introduction, where, in my opinion, so many of the changes that happened and are pertinent to what you need to know initially are housed. You've got chapter 1 with general instructions. Chapter 2 is all the data definitions. Chapter 3 is the reporting application user's guide, which is a chapter that you will probably be revisiting. In my opinion, the appendices are the most important part of the manual because the appendices have 5 parts. So you've got Appendix A, which has information on who needs to be reported on the unit record in terms of students who are receiving financial aid. Appendix B is the record layout, your file format, and valid inputs. C is your system edits that prevent file upload and import. So that's an important chapter or appendix that you'll be looking at. D is a quick lookup by financial aid program, and E is a quick lookup by unit record report field name. This is where the details of the unit record are laid out. In order to submit your unit record report, it needs to be in a CSV file. And in order to build your CSV file, you need to report files in an updated CSV layout format with a header row. And that header row has to be the one that has been provided for you in the unit record manual. It's laid out so that you can't have blanks. Anything that you have in there, if it doesn't look quite right, you'll get a message or saying it can't be submitted. So it's really important that your header file and the information in each of those columns matches that header. For those of you who are new, we also have something called the WASFA. We very often refer to just the FAFSA, but we also have the WASFA, which is the Washington Application for State Financial Aid. This application was created primarily for any undocumented students so that they can be considered for the Washington College Grant. We do have a number of students who are documented who choose to complete the WASFA, but the caution there is that the WASFA, you are not eligible for any federal aid. So if you are a citizen, it's to your advantage to file the FAFSA, but it's certainly up to you. The sample CSV format on our website, I just am cautioning here that the layout has substantive changes for 24-25. Review the field definitions in chapter 2 of the manual and look at that record layout in appendices B and C to make sure that you're information matches. Next slide, please. What students do you report? You report students who received need-based information under the 24-25 FAFSA or WASFA. So the FAFSA or WASFA was required. There are also other programs where the FAFSA or WASFA data may or may not be available, but you consider them, and we consider those programs need programs. And then, of course, you need to report the non-need-based federal loan recipients, and those are the federal direct unsubsidized loans, federal Parent Plus loans, and federal Grad Plus loans. And look in Appendix A for details of these categories. When we ask for need-based recipients, it's our intent to get term-by-term reporting of the students who are receiving financial aid. So this year, you're going to report all students who received awards based on the filing of the 24-25 FAFSA or WASFA. Next year, of course, you'll be reporting students from the 25-26 FAFSA or WASFA. This slide and the next three show programs that are considered. This particular slide is need-based recipients where the FAFSA is required, and you can read this as well as I can. One point I want to make is that under state work study for on and off campus, if a student must have a valid work authorization if they're a DACA students. So they need to have a permit to work in the United States. And the teacher shortage conditional grant is not to be confused with the student teaching grant. Other programs that you should be reporting are things like the WASO scholarships, federal health professional loans, need-based institutional gift aid, institutional employment, and the others that are listed on this slide. This gives us a complete picture of financial aid in the state of Washington. As I indicated earlier, federal non-need-based loan recipients need to be reported. So those, the direct unsub, Parent Plus, Grad Plus. And the reason we need this is because we use and get asked for information regarding federal student loans. And so this gives us a more comprehensive view of federal assistance that students are receiving. So the FAFSA WASFA is required for dependent students without family information, but those who are receiving federal loans. These are for those students who are dependent, but they don't want to use their parents' information, so they're FAFSA rejects, and they're only getting federal direct unsubsidized loan, but we need to know about those students. If your BFET are a subset of worker retraining funds, so if your college receives these funds, we want you to report them under the worker retraining funds and report them if you can. It's my understanding that not all schools are able to report those BFET funds, which stands for Basic Food, Employment, and Training. So the changes for 24-25 unit record report in the portal, we've had some of those. This is the unit record's first year using the student aid index instead of the expected family contribution. And you all probably have already forgotten how challenging it was when the simplified FAFSA came out and you needed to change to student aid index. We're struggling with that now. So I will say up front, if you run into, when you're doing your testing or when you upload your unit record, if you run into issues as a result of the SAI or something that just doesn't look right, please let us know. This is, we have found a couple of things prior to getting this information out to you, and we have been able to correct it. So if you run into something, let us know. So as you all know, you need to report that a negative SAI as a negative integer and a positive SAI as a positive integer. Negative SAI effectively is treated as 0 in the need equation. So for 24-25, you will not have a negative need. It will be 0. If it's less, if you have a negative 1500 SAI or whatever you may have. You need to subtract the SAI from the cost of attendance in the need formula, and it must not result in negative need amount. Negative need amounts are invalid and must be adjusted to show 0 need. Data no longer collected in the field headers. We've taken out marital status is dependent, family size, number in college, and family income. Those are no longer needed, so make sure that you don't submit that information. Error codes associated with the deleted field headers have been removed. So you can see the error code revisions on page I-5 in the 24-25 unit record report manual. Another change that started with the 24-25 academic year is enrollment status is now enrollment intensity, and it's reported by credits, not the not enrolled, full-time, half-time, three-quarter time, less than half-time. So you do need to put the actual credits that a student was enrolled for in the enrollment status field. A couple of new WASAC programs that were added to the 24-25 header layout were behavioral health conditional scholarship, although that doesn't begin until 25-26. And then the substance use disorder professional grant, which we know there have been some expenditures for 24-25. Other error code revisions. Error codes that formerly referenced expected family contribution now reference the student aid index. The total awarded financial aid exceeds the reported need amount error replaces total need-based aid exceeds the need amount, cost minus SAI minus OFA, which prior to this year was EFA or other financial assistance, exceeds need amount. So that's just informational for you to know there has been a change there. You're able to restore deleted URR student records, and that is outlined in the unit record manual, pages 56 through 58, and we'll go through this in her part of the presentation. Refer to pages III, IV, and V in the manual for additional details. So reporting requirements that we need are listed on this slide. So the CSV file requires a header row, and that revised sample, as I've said, is available on our website. For all financial aid recipients reported, the required fields are listed here. The SSN is, of course, very important, and we'll go over that in an edit, but you can see these others. We do want the ISER or WASFA transaction number. We use that to compare against the actual WASFA, FAFSA, and what is listed in Seesaw. We do want the rejected ISER or WASFA, enrollment for each of all 5 terms, and financial aid for each of all 5 terms, even if it's 0. Report non-need-based aid received for all need-based recipients. So if an individual receives at least $1 of need-based aid, you need to report them on the unit record. When we talk about the 5 terms based on the 24-25 FAFSA or WASFA, we're looking at your standard terms, summer 1, fall, winter, spring, summer 2, and then clock hour schools are able to report for both summer terms or all 5 terms. If a recipient is enrolled for more than 1 term in summer, so they have summer 1 and summer 2, you need to report that total amount received and enrolled status as 1 enrollment term. You will not report those individually. Again, review Chapter 2 of the manual for detailed information. Other fields to report for 24-25 FAFSA and WASFA filers are the ISER transaction number, the rejected ISER WASFA number, need duration, cost of attendance, student aid index number, and need amount. Now we're going to talk about special notes about certain selected fields. Social Security numbers, as I said, they're really important. It's really how we match students from your information and compare it to Seesaw and the unit record. So Social Security numbers have to match between the unit record, Seesaw, or obligation tracker records. If you discover any discrepancies, you'll need to contact us to correct the links to ensure the data and history is correct. As an example of some of the things we found last year, there were a number of institutions where they had two Social Security numbers for the same student, and they didn't find that there was discrepancy. So they paid both Social Security numbers. When it came to the unit record a year after they'd been paid, the institution ended up having to repay all the financial aid for the wrong Social Security number. So it's really important that you verify that the aid the student got was under the right Social Security number. There's a discrepancy report in the unit record, and it's the error differences report. And it's a way for you to identify, just by looking, that there may be a Social Security problem. Please review that report. It can help you identify issues before we have to go in and make the changes. If you're unable to make the change to Social Security number, and some of them we do have to make, you'll have to contact us, or we will let you know that there's a problem, and we'll take care of it on our side. But there are changes that you can fix. And you can see that again in Chapter 3 of the unit record manual. This slide just depicts the year in school definitions. And we all know that it's hard for students sometimes if they think they're a sophomore, but they don't have enough credits to be a sophomore. So on the FAFSA, they put that they're a sophomore, but at your institution, they're a freshman. You don't take them at their word, you verify it. We need this because we need you to report the beginning of the term of the recipient's last financial aid disbursement for the 24-25 year. So they may have come in as a freshman fall term, but by the end of the year, they're a sophomore and you paid that. That's what they need. You need to put the year in school as sophomore in that particular instance. One thing I do want to go over, because we really just discovered this last week, is that we have a Class 8 for other, and Class 8 or other is really specific to Running Start or non-matriculated students. And what we found, and it was a surprise to all of us, was that you are entering, instead of Running Start, even though they're not matriculated, we are finding many institutions recording the grade level or the year in school based on the number of credits for which they have completed. And we don't want that. These students are not eligible for federal and or state aid. So it's really important that if they're Running Start, and I don't know if you all know who your Running Start students are. That's something that I don't know for the protection of the student. I've heard that not everybody knows that they're Running Start, but it is something that affects our reporting. As I said, don't automatically use the year in school reported on the FAFSA or WASFA. use the highest year for which the student attended when the student's financial aid was dispersed, and that code aid or other used to report need-based aid for Running Start students or other students who have not yet graduated from high school. For the student aid index number, you want to use the SAI from the federal methodology calculation produced by the U.S. Department of Education based on the 24-25 FAFSA or WASFA. Report the FM student aid index, even if you use institutional methodology and it produces a different SAI. We want the FM calculation. The feds determined that the SAI is not prorated for need duration of less or greater than 9 months. So regardless of how many terms they attend, the SAI for these purposes will remain at a 9-month SAI. You can adjust by professional judgment decisions the SAI using institutional methodology for the awarding of state aid only. So in this instance, you would report your institutional calculation in an override comment or a note to us. And additionally, you would put cost of attendance and the duration that you use to determine that calculation, that adjustment. For cost of attendance, most campuses use several budgets to reflect changes in living expenses. We want you to report the student budget amount related to the need amount, and it should be based on the number of months reported in the need duration. So we have said for a number of years that cost of attendance and need duration must align for the same number of months. So SAI may not be adjusted for less than or greater than 9 months, but if you do prorate, as is available to you under professional judgment for state financial aid, we want you to make sure that the number of months, cost of attendance, and the prorated SAI align. Need amount is this is the calculation that you are all familiar with. So it's the cost minus the SAI equals need amount. That's in general the calculation to determine need. This is based on the months reported in the need duration, and SAI is not prorated for need duration. For need amount, report the amount used in the disbursement of aid and report need amount as 0 or higher. Do not report negative values. You do want to report negative SAI as a negative integer, however. You want to report that negative, but it will be treated as 0 in the need calculation. Over awards are flagged when the cost minus SAI minus other financial assistance exceeds the need amount. Report the need duration based on the number of months for which the need amount and cost of attendance were reported. Generally, this is reported as integers from 1 to 12. And again, if you prorate, we need to understand the terms, the duration, the cost of attendance, and your prorated SAI, and that you'll need to write that out. And the other thing about proration is if you do it for one student, if you prorate one student, you need to prorate all students that are affected by that. This is a slide that illustrates the term enrollment status. So whatever your credits are is in the first column, scheduled clock hours and unit record codes. So you can look at this slide, you will see the information, and it is also in the manual. Career schools, for every 300 hours of attendance, that equals full-time, the equivalent credit hours of 12 or more. An exception is made for the final term. Clock hour schools could have 5 terms to report. For WCG College Bound Passport to College and the Bridge Grant, we want you to report the final awards and enrollment levels of the students at the time of disbursement. The unit record reporting tool checks awards against Seesaw records. Review the WCG, CBS, and Passport Differences report to verify all recipients and awards are correctly reported. This differences report will really, at an eye glance, give you where there are differences between unit record and Seesaw. And if there are differences, they need to be resolved. So that's when we find those differences, we will send you information on that. But if you find them before you submit, that would be pretty helpful. When you report tuition waiver dollars for WCG and CBS recipients, you need to include the full assessed tuition and fee amounts in each student's cost of attendance to reflect the tuition prior to the application of waivers. This gives us an accurate representation of all forms of assistance that your needy students are receiving. The report waivers will be as financial aid as either need-based institutional gift aid or non-need-based institutional gift aid. They're one or the other, and be consistent. For state work study, you're going to be reporting on-campus and off-campus employment separately. Report the student's total gross earnings, including employer match or institutional share. Include summer employment, and you'll report either actual gross earnings based on monthly cutoff dates or institutional payroll dates, or the average gross term earnings over the academic year for all terms a student was enrolled at least half-time. The total award amount needs to be very close to what was reported in the final recon to State Work Study program staff. State Work Study program staff review this section of the unit record for accuracy and may contact the school if there's a substantial difference between reporting and year-end recon records. Institutional gift aid should be reported as either need-based institutional gift aid, where the FAFSA or WASFA is considered, or non-need-based institutional gift aid, which is aid without regard to the FAFSA or WASFA. Again, be consistent in your application of the institutional gift aid. Other state-funded gift assistance report sources of aid not reported elsewhere. So those examples on this slide are things like the American Indian Endowed Scholarship, Student Emergency Assistance Grant, Supporting Students Experiencing Homelessness Pilot Program. So there are others, but this is just examples that we know of. So this section will be talking about edits. So we have edits to help ensure data quality. An edit will bring our eye to something that just isn't quite right and that may have been missed in your review. This year, we only have 2 informational edits that are effective for 24-25, and those are date of birth outside expected range. So we create a crazy range that if they were born before, I don't know, I'm making this up, 1940, then we probably are going to see an edit there. All you need to do is respond to that. They're informational. Or the student aid index is outside of the expected range. These are similar to edits that we've had in prior years. And Appendix C lists all the edit errors and what action needs to take place to clear that edit. There are different kinds of errors, edits that occur in the unit record. There are, the first one is errors that prevent the file upload. They're all listed on page 84, Appendix C in the manual. And some of the examples are you've got a header row missing or it's invalid, duplicate SSNs, invalid codes, blanks reported in required fields. The rejected ICER WASFA is a required field, just to note. And make sure you review all 12 items. It may help you in your initial submission. There are also must fix or non-overridable error. And here are some examples from Appendix C, pages 84 through 87 in the manual. A non-resident got a WCG or other state aid. The cost of attendance is required for FAFSA-based and WASFA aid types, and no valid institutional state work study allocation in the portal. So review any of those non-overridable errors. We also have some overridable errors, and here are some examples from pages 84 to 87 of Appendix C. Your need amount is 0 with need-based aid. So an example here is the budget changed with dropped credits. You're in school for aid type. This generally occurs when someone has a federal Grad Plus loan. They graduated mid-year, stayed at your institution, and they're now getting a Grad Plus. Those are overridable. And the cost of attendance minus the student aid index calculated by the EDIT program does not equal need amount reported by the college. So these are just 3 examples. Make sure you review that appendix. So we have some reminders. When you write an override comment, make it brief, but make sure it has a sufficient detail to directly address the error message. We need to know what the error is and how you have updated it so that we don't read your mind. We need to know with enough detail so that we can interpret what you're trying to say. The ICER WASFA transaction number reported should be the most recent used to award the student, not necessarily the last one filed. This is used to compare the FAFSA WASFA to unit record and CSAW for discrepancies related to the student aid index. Comparisons appear in the on file tab in the unit record student record. And you'll see this in Anne's portion. On pages 32 through 34 of the WCG CBS manual, this will tell you when you're calculating family income for a dependent student to count the parent's adjusted gross income and non-taxable income. Don't include the student's income. And conversely, when calculating family income for an independent student, count the student's AGI and non-taxable income and that of the spouse if the student is married. If there's not an AGI, then you need to use the student's income from work. Report the full non-prorated student aid index per federal regulations, even if the student attended less than full-time, full year. Again, WASAC allows professional judgment adjustments of the SAI using institutional methodology for the awarding of state aid programs. In these instances, report the IM and SAI adjustment details for the state award in the override comment or in the notes where an override is not available. It needs to be consistently applied to all students if applied to one student. Report all known race categories for each student, even where Hispanic origin is marked. Why? This eliminates gaps in research data, and our research team does use this information when putting reports together. Tips and best practices. This is a theme. Upload your CSV file early. Don't wait until the deadline. Review the WASAC's 2425 unit record manual and training materials. Test uploads using the portal training environment. So that's the https://portaltraining.wasac.wa.gov/. Keep in mind, though, if you use this, you need to understand that the next day, all the information that you input will be gone. So it's something that you need to be aware of. Use the unit record informational reports to check for consistency and validity. The CTCs need to review the SBCTC 2425 unit record processing guide when available, and I am not sure if that has been made available to the community and technical colleges. And contact WASAC with questions or issues not addressed in WASAC's unit record manual. And Nisha and I are here to answer any questions that you may have, or if you run into any issues. We work pretty closely with our IT team, and we will respond as best we can to any issues that you have. So don't be afraid to contact us. We'd rather work with you than have to deal with something after the fact. Update your portal and portal training bookmarks. Notices will be sent when the session has been posted to the web and is available for you to share with others. Do you have any questions before moving to the portal application?
No questions listed yet, Marla.
Okay, thank you. Well, Anne, it's all yours.
All righty, thank you, Marla. There are a couple of different ways to get to our portal or to portal training, as a matter of fact. One is to place the address directly into your address bar. And you see there the portal.wasac.wa.gov. And it is a secure site, as you notice. The portal training uses that same address, except it says portaltraining.wasac.wa.gov. So if you're interested in testing out your files there, that is the way to get there. Once you're here on the welcome page, you can log in directly by clicking the unit record button, or you can click into the login that's in the upper right-hand corner. Once you're in the portal, you would find the unit record in the programs dropdown. Your list will vary depending on what access you have, but just click on the unit record and that will take you to the upload screen. We have in the unit record a navigation bar, and you'll notice that whatever step you're in is highlighted. You're not able to move forward until you've completed whatever tasks are needed of you in the current step you're at. But once you've moved forward, you'll be able to move back. So just keep that in mind. If you're moving forward and need to address something in an earlier step, you are able to do that. Please note here that I've highlighted the fact that when you upload your CSV file, if we recognize that it does not contain records for students for which we have award information from you for the 24-25 year, it will add those automatically, but they are skeleton records, which means that they have the name and the SOC number and whatever errors are generated because that record has no actual award data in it. The one type of record that doesn't get auto added at this point would be the new program for the substance use disorder professional grant. And we are working on that, but we will not have that as an auto add this year. Once you have browsed your PC and selected the CSV file, just click the Start Upload. If you have a successful upload, you'll know that right away. It will tell you that in the upper left-hand corner. However, if there is a problem and you have critical errors that will prevent your file from uploading, you will receive a pink box that hopefully tells you which row to find the errors and what those error types are. If you encounter that, there is a way to download that list. And then once you've made those corrections in your upload file, you can click try again. On the other hand, if it was successfully uploaded to begin with, this blue continue button will appear, and just click on that and it will take you to the next step. Before we get much further, I want to talk a little bit about the different types of error statuses that we have. As I mentioned, the critical errors are those that will prevent your file from uploading right off the bat. The error list in that pink box should help you identify which records have those types of critical errors so that you can go into your upload file and make those corrections. The must fix actually don't appear until you have a successful upload. So it does mean that if it's a must fix, that it is non-overwritable, and the record to whom those errors apply must be corrected in order to move forward towards submission of your unit record. So if you see a must fix, please make sure that you address those right away because it will prevent you from being able to submit your file. Overwritable means that you will either correct or provide us with an override explanation in that student record. So you are able to move past those. It won't stop you from being able to complete your unit record. Informational, on the other hand, is for errors that may or may not require correction, but you are asked to review the record to determine whether a correction is required or whether an override comment or a note entry is required. Sometimes these may apply to like a larger overall question that might need to be addressed, and the note entry would be the way to tell us about that. On the other hand, it could be that everything is fine with the record as it is, and you can leave the record without even an override comment. We do look at those and we'll come back with a question if we have any, but informationals don't require that you actually place an override or make a change to those. As I mentioned, once you have moved past your upload into the errors tab in your navigation bar, you will see a list of all of the errors that the unit record has identified up front. There are different ways to sort your file, and you can use any one of these column header titles, or you can select through these two drop downs either a status, which is like new messages, overwritable, informational, just to address those first, or you can select by the error types, and it will sort your file by the different error type that you select in that drop down. In order to work on that record and address those errors or to review the information, click on the highlighted Social Security number that's on the far left of that error row. Once you're in the student record, there are 4 tabs of information. I believe it will generally bring you to the error tab first, but it may bring you to the details tab. It's been a year, so I'm trying to remember. But in order to look at each of those, you would click on each of the individual tabs. You'll notice that when you're in the student record, there is no click function because you're already in the student record. So this is not highlighted with blue. You can download a copy of all of the errors that that particular student record has if you want to keep track of that, or address them by error type instead of by student. So that option is available to you. You can enter override reasons from this screen by clicking on the specific error message that will highlight this and will change this button from 0 errors to the number of errors that you click down here. You can see that you also are able to delete overrides, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a later slide. Actual corrections do need to be made directly in the details or in the terms tabs. You aren't able to make any changes in that on file tab. Before you leave, after making your corrections, be sure that you click that blue save button that's up in the upper right-hand corner. Otherwise, whatever changes or comments you may have added will not get saved to that record. This is an example of the details tab, and you'll notice there is a change from last year. All of the student family and dependency information was down in this bottom corner. It's no longer there because that information is no longer collected by the unit record. But it does include all of the other student information, race, ethnicity, the ICER WASFA transaction number, whether that is a rejected ICER WASFA or whether there is no ICER or WASFA. That field is here for you to complete. There's a student ID and year in school. To make changes to any of those fields, you go directly into that field, make the correction, and then click the Save button. In the Student Terms tab, you'll see, I believe, initially what we call an abbreviated view. In this particular student record, all we see in there is the WCG. And so that is the only program that's listed. If you find you need to add additional awards for different programs, you would do that by clicking the Show All. If it has a lock, you can click that to unlock it, and it will drop down all of the programs that the unit record collects, and then you can make those additions directly into the fields. Be sure that if you add an award in a field that shows 0 credits, that you change that to show whatever the credit intensity is, the enrollment intensity. Also on this page, be sure that you click that Save button before you leave. The On File tab is for your use to compare what we show in our state programs compared to what you have included in the unit record. The program data is what we see in Seesaw or in the obligation tracker for any of these programs. The unit record column is what you have included in this specific student record. You'll notice that all of the information that we used to have for family income, EFC that is now SAI. SAI is the only remainder that is still there. It is not considered federal tax information. And so we are able to show you if there is a difference between what you've reported in the unit record and what's in the ICER WASFA. You will see that right up front. And if there is a green check mark, that means all of the information matches our records and your unit record. If there is a red X, that indicates that there is a data mismatch that needs to be addressed. As you're editing the student records, you can apply an initial override from the student's error tab or from the main institutional errors tab. Excuse me, institutional errors screen. If you're working on these individually, you might want to do these individually in this by clicking on the little box that's across from the error that you want to address. As I said, this will activate the override reason box where you put in your information, and then you will click that blue errors button, and this will change from 0 to 1 to however many errors that you are addressing with that specific override. And as soon as you have clicked the override one error, this red overridable summary here in this column will change to a green overridden text. And we'll go a little bit over why I talked about this being an initial override in a little bit when we talk about the bulk overrides. Once you've entered an override comment, you can take a look at that and make sure that it processed correctly. You can hover your cursor over that green override or overridden word, and there will be a pop-up that shows you once you move your cursor from that, it disappears. If you want to place it directly in this history, you would click on it, and it will actually drop it down just below the error itself. And you can see this one just says this is a test override comment. I want to also point out to you, there is a little pencil icon in this particular screenshot, and that is an indicator that you are able to edit this override comment and change it. If you don't see that little pencil icon, you're not able to make an update to that message. Okay, I want to mention that as I talked about that little pencil icon, the override comments are editable only by the original writer, and that is prior to the submission of the unit record and a response from the WASAC reviewer. If it has been submitted and then reopened, a new comment must be entered. And this is just an example. It shows that this has been edited and then submitted and reverted. And this is a test rejection comment that a WASAC reviewer may have placed. And you see that reverts this back to an overridable status. In this event, you can select the error, put in a new override comment, and it will then be added to this history. So we do try to track the history to see as things are addressed. As I mentioned, if someone else has written that override comment, it is not editable by anyone other than that original writer, but you can add to the history. So be assured that there are ways to add or change information in that history. If you need additional information about this process, please see the unit record manual in chapter 3, and those would be on pages 41 through 44 if you need more detail. As Marla mentioned, the Social Security mismatches are a major issue. Generally speaking, you may or may not see these as an error right up front until you are reviewing those differences reports just before you submit the unit record. That is one of the reasons why we require that you take a look at those. Depending on where that error in the Social Security number resides, there are times when you can fix that Social Security error directly in the unit record. If that error originates in the unit record, say as a typo or something, you can click on the student's Social Security number in the main error screen or in the search students utility to pull up that student record and directly change that Social Security number in the SSN field. And then remember to click Save. However, if the wrong Social Security number is a problem that originates out of Seesaw or out of that program record for that student, you need to have someone at WASAC initiate that correction through our IT staff. In that case, we ask that you click on send us an email. The email does not work if you're in portal training because it is not a production site, but it is live if you're in the main production portal. And so click on this, write up the details, give us information about which student it is, what is the correct number, what is the incorrect number, and then it comes to us securely through the portal email. And then we will initiate what we call a person merge or a correction through our ticket to our IT staff. Here, we have the ability to process bulk overrides, which means that you're applying the same override comment to multiple records or to multiple errors. We ask that you be very careful and judicious in applying this because there are times we see a bulk override processed to several records that may have the same error message to begin with, but the details that created that error may not be the same from individual to individual, and that override comment may not apply to each of those situations. So be sure you review the records to determine if a correction is required, which is why I mentioned in that earlier slide about the initial override. You want to be sure that whatever you put in there is going to be valid for that particular individual for that particular error code. But once you've been able to identify there are a series of people that all have the same error message and have the same correction or information that needs to be provided to WASAC, you can do several of them or all of them at the same time. One of the ways of doing that is to go back to this main error screen, select whatever error type it is that that override is going to apply to. It will filter your list to show only those students, and then you would then click those particular records for whom that error message is going to apply. If it turns out that it will apply to all of the people that are in that filtered list, you can click the little checkbox next to the Social Security number, and it will auto check all the students that are in that filtered list. Okay. And you notice that because right now we have two people, two errors, for different people in this list. Whenever I clicked on these, it threw up there that it's going to override 2 errors. So it knows right away how many errors that are going to be overridden with this message. So go ahead and you enter your override reason, click the override button, and then click save to be sure that it is applied. Now, if for some reason you find that you may have entered the wrong message for all of them, you can click or select the entire filtered list and then go back up here and you see there's a gray box that says delete. And right now it says 0 overrides, but it will delete whatever overrides that you have pre-selected here. And that will revert those to overridable from that overridden status. If for some reason you need to search for an existing unit record that was uploaded in your initial file upload, you can find them in a couple of different places. If you go back to this upload tab, you'll see there is a button that says search students. Or you can go up to the top of the screen. I believe there is an option at the very top menu where you can click and there is a search option there. It will bring up this search screen and you can search. If you're looking for several students, you can put in a comma separated list, or you can search by any of the fields that are here in this set of captions. So you can search by name, you can search by social security number, or if you're looking for something specific in terms of a dollar amount, you can drop that in there. Or, you know, if you're looking for all freshmen's first year, you can place that in there and it will filter that list and bring up all those records. Once you click on that specific record, it will open up your student's record. You can make your changes and click save. Or if you're trying to delete that record, you can click the delete. Now there is a cautionary note for the delete button. If it is an auto loaded record because there was an award in our portal, Seesaw or obligation tracker, and that amount is still active in the program, it will not allow you to delete. You can make the changes and zero out all of the dollar amounts. It will probably then give you an error that you would address by telling us that you're going to return those funds, or whatever the valid reason is that you believe that record should be deleted. That also applies to other records that you did include in your initial upload, that for some reason you believe that that record needs to be deleted. Make those changes in the unit record, and in those error messages, tell us why you expect that person needs to be deleted from the unit record. If there are dollars that need to come back to us, make sure that you include that in the override comment. And then what happens is that we will see those messages once the unit record is submitted to us, and those deletions will take place after we have finalized your institutional report. So once you're done with a specific student record and have clicked your save or delete and addressed whatever issues come out of that, click on return to list. And that will take you back to the search screen if that is where you came from. If you were in the institutional errors screen, it will return you back to the institutional errors screen. There are also two options. If you find that you need to add a record, perhaps it's for someone who's received federal aid or institutional dollars, but somehow were overlooked in that initial upload. You can add a record from that errors list, or you can go back to that upload tab and there is an add record on that screen as well. That will open a blank unit record. It contains only the details and the terms tabs. And you'll notice that these are totally blank. So be sure that you complete all of the necessary fields and then click the Save button in order to retain that record. Generally speaking, if you're adding a record and there are errors in that, it will immediately give you feedback by adding the errors tab with a list of those errors. And you'll notice that once a record is added, the On File tab also appears. If you see errors, make sure that you either address those directly or give us the override comment that you feel needs to inform us of the reasons why you feel that is valid. Then click Save. It will take you back to that main errors screen. But what we ask is that when you make those kinds of changes, be sure that you click Revalidate. And that is at the top, right next to that Add Record button. And what that does is it reprocesses your errors. Occasionally there'll be an error that isn't transparent right up front. And that will force that error to appear in that error list so that you can address it before you get to the point where you're ready to submit your unit record. As I mentioned earlier, you can manually delete a student record. Find and open that record either from the errors list or from the search screen. And as I mentioned, any auto-added records cannot be deleted from the unit record because that means that there was an award that we found in the portal records or in the obligation tracker that indicates that there is money that was dispersed. If you're trying to delete a record like that, you need to make comments in that override comment to let us know that. It still will not allow you to delete it right up front, but then we are aware that that needs to be deleted on the other end. And part of that will be if you have zeroed out all of the aid in the terms and provided us with that override reason. If it is a record that will allow you to delete, you can click the delete and it will ask you to confirm. Once you've confirmed, that record will be marked as deleted in the institution's main error menu. Okay. And an example of that is here. This is a new function that is added this year. And it will allow you to know that that record has been deleted. If you find that you have deleted it in error, you would click into that record and you will see this Restore Deleted Record, Unit Record button at the top of the screen. Click that and it will restore that record. So there's no more wondering, you know, how to have that restored. You're able to do that right away rather than request a ticket to our programming staff. The supplemental file uploads is also something that you can do to make corrections, changes, add or delete records. You can combine different types of changes in that one file. It is a little different from the supplemental file upload that is used in the Seesaw for interim report or for any of the other need-based programs, in that it is a partial file. However, you must retain full data for the student and edit only the fields that need change. Because when you place that supplemental file in there, it will totally overwrite the existing data for the student that you have listed there. If you have left a student out, it doesn't delete that student. That record is left as it is. So be sure that even for an add, you do need to include all of the data fields. If you're going to make a change, you would change only those fields that you need corrected. Okay. If the supplemental file is uploaded and it's successful, you're not able to discard it. If you discard it, you could be clicking that delete all unit record information, and that would delete everything. So you need to be careful that if you upload a supplemental file, you must edit records if you've decided that you need to make a change from what you've just uploaded, or you need to upload a compensating supplemental file. If that supplemental file features an unsuccessful message, that is a little bit different situation. It will allow you to click try again, because it means that that file did not actually upload. And it will allow you to download that error file for that specific supplemental file, so that you can identify and fix those errors before you attempt another upload of the corrected file. This is just kind of a partial cutaway example of the supplemental file. And specifically, it's just an example of what takes place in column A, which is the is delete. If you have changes you want to make, you would enter false, because that is not a deletion. That is a correction or a change to the record. If you enter true, that will attempt to delete that record. So anything that has a true will delete a record. Anything with a false will allow you to make a correction or add a new record. Okay. After you've created the supplemental file, you go back to the upload screen. There is a button that says add file, and that is different from add record. So be sure that you're clicking the correct button, and then you would follow the same steps that you did when you uploaded your initial upload file. You browse, add your record, your file in that CSV format, and then click start upload. Once again, if it's successful, you'll get that message right away. If there is critical errors that might have prevented that file upload, you will see that pink box with the errors listed. so that you can make those corrections and make changes to attempt another upload. Now, there are notes that you can add to the unit record. There is an add a note button on several of the screens. And I want to mention that these are slightly different than the override comments. Override comments are specific to a record. So when you add a note, if you're referencing a student specifically, you need to give us all of that information in your comment. But when you click add a note, it will open up this box. There is a field that you can enter a fairly substantial explanation. We find that this is sometimes very helpful if you have comments on the program totals page or something that applies to your entire unit record that you want us to know. And then you save the note. Several people can add several notes. It does keep a history so that we have all of those notes in one place. The original writer is able to edit that comment before that unit record is submitted, or even delete it. There is a little red X. So if you change your mind about sending us that note before you submit, you can delete it. And whatever you leave in that is a history that comes to us with your unit record, and often is very helpful to us as we're reviewing your unit record. Once you've addressed all of your errors, you are then ready to review your unit record and send it to us. The first clue you will have is this little blue button will pop up that says continue to review. And what that means is that you have addressed all of the override errors or made corrections. There isn't anything right up front that's visible that you will want to address. So we do sometimes ask that you click this revalidate just to be very sure that there isn't anything that is, hidden that may not appear initially on that errors list. But if you click the continue to review, it will take you to that program totals report. And we call this a preliminary program totals report at this point because it is your entire unit record data, which includes those that have at least $1 of need-based aid, as well as any records that you may have included that are totally non-need-based aid recipients. We ask that you take a look at these comparisons over the last 4 years. This percentage change actually only addresses the last two, the current year and the year before. If there are changes that are a fairly high percentage, they are highlighted to bring your attention to them to see if those are valid or may indicate that you need to go back and take a look at your data more closely to see if something may have been placed in perhaps a wrong column, or maybe a program that shouldn't have been reported is included. But that gives you an opportunity to take a look at your comparisons for over the last 4 years and specifically the last two to be sure that everything looks like it's, pertinent to your experience over the last year. This will change slightly depending on how many non-need-based records, students that did not receive any need-based aid. Once we finalize the report and then finalize all of the unit records at the end of the year in January and February, we do delete all of those non-need-based records. So we ask that time when you are able to see your profile reports, that you go back in and you run another copy in this download, so that you have both the preliminary program totals report and the final program totals report, because those sometimes can answer questions about why there are changes at the time we're first reviewing as compared to what to expect once all of those non-need-based records are eliminated. So if everything looks like it resonates with your experience for the year, click the confirm report. It will it will show up with another button that says continue to submit. So that's your opportunity, if you have second thoughts, you know, to hold the movement forward towards a submit. Now, at this point, you're at the submit stage. However, before you submit, we've given you an alert here that you must go back and take a look at these program differences reports. Oops, excuse me, I clicked too fast. This is where you have the opportunity to look at those reports and identify whether there are any individuals that might have the same person listed with two different social numbers. So when you click into this, you will see a drop down. Currently, it shows 4 different programs. It actually, I don't have a screenshot, but the substance use disorder professional grant will also be a differences report. Because as I mentioned, we aren't able at this point to provide those in the original errors screen that you see back here. Now, each of these programs is a separate report. So when you click on the one, it will open that specific report. And here, this is an example of a WCG. You'll see that if it says yes, it means that you have already included an override comment and probably have addressed it. You may still want to take another look, but that is your indicator that at least you have looked at it and entered some kind of a comment. Now, if it says no, that may have been one of those errors that didn't appear immediately. So we definitely need you to take a look at that particular individual and be sure that you know, there isn't something that needs to be corrected or changed or overridden in that particular record. Now, also, if you see in one of these differences report, say you have the same student name, but the social number is different, there's an award here and a 0 in unit record, and an award in your unit record, but a 0 here. That is one of the indicators of an individual who has a different social number in your unit record than appears in Seesaw. So that's one of those individuals where you need to study it and make sure whether or not some type of a person merge needs to take place in order to take care of that issue. Now, once you have looked at each of those 5 differences reports, then you can click Return to Report Summary. And that will take you back to this screen and click on I've reviewed the report. Please don't click on this before you have actually done that, because these differences reports are the same ones that we as the review team see on our end. So if there are unresolved issues here, we will see them once you submit that report, and that's when we will get back to you with an email or a phone call to ask you to address it at that point. So it's much easier if you are able to address that before you have submitted the report. Once you've clicked I've reviewed the report, you will then see the Submit button appear. It will ask you to confirm. If you're not sure, you can go back into any one of these tabs and make those corrections. Once you've clicked confirm, and if it's correct, you will see a successfully submitted message. Between this and this, there will be a revalidation that takes place of all of your data. I wasn't able to capture it in a screenshot because it showed up and left so quickly, but it does revalidate everything before you get that submitted successfully message. I want to mention here, we encourage everyone to download a point-in-time report at the time you submit. It will be a complete copy of your submitted report, except for the override comments. They do not download, they do not download. It is only the data, but then you will have a copy of your final report as it was submitted to us that you can keep in your files as a historical reference. If there are any questions that come up later, you at least are able to check your records that way, as well as being able to go into the unit record. It does constitute a full unit record file. It is also useful because as I said, it's a point in time. If you're working in your unit record somewhere back here, you can download the report with all of the data that's been corrected or edited to that point in time. And that can also be used to help you with that supplemental file upload file. You just delete the records that you don't need to make changes to, and that becomes the base of your supplemental file. I also want to mention that the download report, that point in time, is also active in the portal training environment. So if you're making editorial changes and corrections to your file in portal training, at the end of your session, you can download this report and save it. And as I said, it does not keep your override comments, but it will keep all the data. And then that can be used in the production portal because you've already made your changes in that file. So that is something I want to point out. It was something I wasn't aware of until about a year ago. And I found it to be very helpful when I was playing around in portal training and testing out things. So if I wanted to stop at some point in the day and I wanted to be able to work on that record the next day without having lost everything, that was one way to do it. As we mentioned, there are a number of reports available after you submit. These three here, the demographics, program totals, and the differences reports, are immediately downloadable, and you can keep copies. The profile reports, as you notice, is grayed out. That is not available until we finalize the entire unit record in January, February. And the 4 different types of profile reports that you can download in January, February, in addition to those original 3, are these 4 that are bulleted here. I want to point out also that you are able to go back 3 years from the current unit record to download all of these same reports from this dropdown. So that's something to keep in mind. All right. Are there any questions at this point? We're very close to concluding our session.
It doesn't look like there are any questions, Anne.
Okay. All righty. As we conclude our presentation, we want to make sure that you're aware there is a revised unit record manual that was just posted yesterday. It gives a little bit more clarity to the enrollment intensity and information about the substance use disorder professional grant as well. So you may want to take a look at that and be sure that you review those sections. It is a very valuable tool. We ask if you need to contact us. The best source would be this unit record at wasac.wa.gov because all of the team does monitor that. However, if you need to speak to any one of us individually, especially as we're reaching out during our reviews, our individual information is here as well. All right. So, we'd like to thank you for staying with us during all of this. I know it's a long presentation. Please, please, please reach out to us if we can help you in any way. I guess this is our last opportunity before we close. If there's any questions or if anyone would like to speak, we can unmute you.
I just want to say thank you all for your time. It is a lot of information, but I want to assure you that everything that we talked about today is in the manual. It's very comprehensive. It's just pretty daunting. But the other thing is we are here for you. So please feel free to give us a call or send us an email if you get stuck. We're happy to help in any way we can.
Yes, thank you. And we'll have a copy, 2 copies of these presentations, 2 of the 3, probably available in another week or so. There is still one final opportunity to be with us on Thursday when we have a co-presenter from the state board that will join us and talk a little bit about the CTC link screens as well. Thank you and take care. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.